Okay, so now we've looked at our guiding design principles and we've looked at some rules on how to use text. So now you're actually going to start looking at how to make your design scheme. And first, you're going to start with research. You'll use your Pinterest boards that we created to pin different ideas. And it doesn't matter what order you do these in, you're just going to look for font ideas and make sure you look for a headline font, which are those fancy or interesting fonts, and then look for a secondary font, which again are the simple or supporting fonts. Then you're going to look at color schemes. In my color scheme, if you look at my title, Design Scheme Research, I have a coral color, a turquoise, and a gold that I've used throughout. I've used it all this year and I've used it in this tutorial. You're going to be looking for your own color scheme to submit as part of your design scheme. You will just be pinning those each on their own boards. The last part, the graphic, is completely optional. That is up to you. In my design, I have the arrows as my graphics. You do not have to have them. They're not always necessary. That's just another little thing that we can add on there if we'd like to. You'll go to your Pinterest and you'll come up here to the search line and you'll put one of your fields in there. We're going to go ahead and start with fonts. Once it comes up, you can go ahead and look. Some of them you'll like, some of them you won't, but just kind of look through and find something that you find interesting. You're going to click that pin it button and then go find your fonts board. You can change the description or keep it the same and then just click pin it. And then you can either click out to the side or hit the little X button and go ahead and keep looking through and finding all the fonts that you want. Now I'll go back up to my search bar again and I'm going to search for color schemes. It's the same exact thing we're going to look through, and any color schemes that you like you can go ahead and pin. You right now, remember, you're just doing research, so go ahead and spend a few minutes and pin as many as you would like. And last, go ahead and do the same thing for your graphic. This is when you're going to have to kind of know what you're doing here, because as you search for Photoshop graphic, it might come up as a brush, as a shape, or just as an image file. So you have to kind of know what you're looking for. And if you don't, that's fine. Remember, this part is optional. At this point, go ahead and pause the tutorial and head over to Pinterest and look at those different things, your font ideas with your headline and your secondary font and your color schemes. And then once you have those, go ahead and come back and begin your tutorial again. Welcome back. Now you've done all of your research. So now it's time to actually select what you want to use. Go ahead and select your headline font and select your secondary font. Any graphics that you might be using, do the same thing and actually pick out your color scheme. go ahead and take a second to do that, and then we'll come back together and we'll look at actually creating your design scheme. So go ahead and pause again and make your selections. Now we should be ready to actually create your design scheme. When you open up Photoshop, your document is going to be 11 inches wide and 8.5 inches high, just like a normal piece of paper. And we are going to do this at 300 resolution. When you are actually creating your design scheme, it can look a few different ways. But if you look at my example here, just make sure you include your headline font and your body font. Now, you don't type headline, you're actually going to type the font name that you're using. That way, if you need to come back to it later, you know what font you've used. You don't have to align it like I have here. You can change it around and make it look however it's going to look best on for your design scheme. Again, those graphic elements, for me, they are there because that is my Room 16 design scheme. You might not have them. Remember, that's optional. Down at the bottom, I have just a whole bunch of squares, and this has my complete color scheme for my room. We have a dark coral and a light, a dark turquoise and a light, and then we have actually a glitter texture and then a gold gradient that go together. So while yours might not look exactly like this is pretty much the concept. And don't forget to go ahead and put your watermark somewhere on this also so that we know who created this. Next, we will actually look at opening up Photoshop and going through the steps to create your design scheme. Here, I already have Photoshop open, so if you haven't done that, go ahead and do that first and then come back to the video. But if you're ready to go, we are just going to open up a new document. So we're going to go to File, New, and go ahead and name this design scheme so we know what we're working on. We don't want this to be pixels, we want it to be inches, so make sure you're on inches. And again, it's 11 inches wide, 8.5 high, and 300 resolution. So here we have our canvas, and the first thing that we're going to do is go to our text, which is right over there with the T, or you just hit the T tool. We're going to go ahead and type the name of the first font. Then I'm going to go up to the top and get my second font. Try and find it here. A little bit more. And there it is. Oh, and sometimes I make these mistakes, and you will too. I accidentally went ahead and changed it. So I already have Caviar Dreams, so I'm just going to go ahead and type Caviar Dreams, and then I'll go back and change Scriptina again here in a second. So there are my font names. I have Caviar Dreams actually in Caviar Dreams, and then I'm going to go back and change Scriptina real quick. I know this is fast, but it was a mistake, so let me just fix it real quick. Okay, so there are my fonts, and I'm going to go ahead and place them kind of where I would want them. Make this one a little bit smaller since it's a secondary, and just kind of make them fit together a little bit better. Remember, once you resize your fonts, or once you resize anything, you have to hit enter to accept that. And now I'm going to go to my shapes, which is right down here on the shapes button, or you hit U. I'm going to click and drag for a shape. Double click on the little icon over here in the corner, and that will bring up your color selection. I actually forgot to get my color scheme first, so you're going to see me go through and pick my existing color scheme. So just kind of look how we do this, and then we'll go get the color scheme here in a minute. And we don't want to keep making the squares, we want them to be exactly the same. So what I do is I take that layer and I drag it down to the new layer to duplicate it, and there you see it again. You just drag and drop it and then bring it over. That way all of your shapes are the same size. So do not remake your squares. Make sure you duplicate those and then just change the color. Make sure also that your space in between your blocks is uniform. You don't want a whole bunch of space between one and then just a little bit between the other. So now we have our boxes, but I forgot the color scheme. So I'm going to go over to Pinterest and get my actual color scheme and just copy the image. And remember to paste in Photoshop, you have to hit Control V, and it's hidden back here. So I'm going to go get it and make it bigger. And it doesn't matter if it's distorted or anything, we're just going to color match. So I'm going to go get my eyedropper tool and I'm going to click on the first color and I'll go grab my first shape over here and go ahead and change that color. So there I've selected my color and I'm going to double click on the square that I want and then click on the color and it'll change. And then I'm going to double click on this one, match the color. There we go. Double click on that one and match the color. And one more, double click on that square and match the green color. So now we actually have the new color scheme with my squares and not the old one. And we don't need that anymore, so we can just go ahead and delete that. And I'm just going to move these up so that they look like they go with our font a little bit more. And here we're working on our proximity and our alignment. I don't want the font behind, so I'm going to just kind of arrange my layers over here. And then I want to be able to see the gray a little bit better, so I'm going to flip this one and make my pink come over here and bring the green up there. So little things, but look at that contrast. The contrast is better with the gray and the pink than it was with the green and the pink. So this, I'm just kind of messing with the alignment, which we're not really worried about right now. So just kind of ignore this part. And move this one over just a little bit. And that is your design scheme. Now I'm going to go ahead and put a watermark on this, and this is just one of my example ones I made. So here's my watermark, and I'll go make a new layer and just click, make it a little bit smaller, and I'm just going to put it right down here in the lower right hand corner. And I'm going to make it a gray color, so it's not, it matches the gray, but it's not kind of jumping out at everybody. And so there it is down there in the corner. And that is your design scheme if you choose to not do a graphic. So you're just going to go File, Save As, and go ahead and save it as a Photoshop document. But remember to put your name on there also, and save it as a Photoshop document first. That way, if you want to change anything, you can. And then go in and save it as a JPEG. So you'll have a Photoshop document and a JPEG. Now, if I wanted to do a graphic, I'm going to go ahead and get my shape, and I'm just going to go back and get those arrows that I had. There it is. So I'll just click and drag to put it on there first, and then move it up where I think I want it. And again, I'm going to duplicate that and not recreate it because we want it the same size and get the alignment that I want. And then I think I'm going to make them a little bit smaller. So here, hold down Shift and resize that. And there is a graphic. So again, I'm going to save as and save it as a Photoshop. And we save it as a Photoshop so we can still change it. And then I'm going to, oh, that was actually a JPEG. Now I'm going to save it also as a Photoshop. And now you have your design scheme finished, and you would then go turn that in.